going to have, you know, like your rebars lapping, your circle, which is twice the diameter of the bar, and another delimitator bar at the bottom and top of where they go to with the arrow, and on top of the reinforcing, you'll have its call up, which would be the bar mark and the spacing and everything else. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, it's in the notes. You'll also have, I don't know, maybe about 7 notes here. It can only be about the concrete and the reinforcing. No use putting timber notes in here, okay? I'm not sure.
Let's go hardfill.
Yes, you can have a little bit about hardfill if you want to in there, yes. Now, a lot of people, in order to draw that, they draw up their reinforcing like this, which is quite a good idea, hard up against the cover, right? Yeah. And then they project these lines up so that they can work out where these bars go, right? That's quite a logical way of doing it. So here's your reinforcing. All right. And then you have the bar coming in the other way, which overlaps in the middle. Okay, now don't use that as a way of working out how long the bars are, because AutoCAD is always a little bit different to what your calculation will be. Might be out by a couple of mil. But anyway, you've got the bar coming the other way with your lap in the middle. And then so that would be drawn down here, right? I'm okay with that as long as it doesn't appear in the viewport. Right?
As long as what doesn't appear, oh, this part, oh yeah. That's
yeah.
right.
Because that's on the spacings and all that. Now, what do you do if there's an odd space? Do you work that into the overall distance?
So what I told okay, so if you've got a bar there and a bar there, and you've been told you have I don't know, 40, then the best way to do it is to draw a line from here to there, and to use Ingrid's notes.
Right.
And just put in a note in, and they'll be beautifully spaced. I know that it might be, say, 250 centres, but the nodes might be 247.6 or something, so what?
Okay, so
But you still call them up as 250 centres.
okay, cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
So the discrepancy, we just work
Yeah.
it in on the drawing, but we still just note it as.
So if you think about it, if you've done an engineering calc to work out the bar size and the centres, you do want them spaced evenly. You don't want them 250 centres and then too close together here. That really hasn't given the whole thing proper integrity.
it's not uniform anymore.
No, no.
Sure.
So that's how we draw it in elevation. You don't need to worry about that for here, because that is just called, well, you do, you need to know the number of bars, but you don't need to draw the individual bars all on here. It's just a token bar, and you know, that can be anywhere. It doesn't have to be in the right position. It can be anywhere, because in my time we used to have to draw them all, and then they were linked. We used to have to put a little mark for each bar, and then just one of those would be drawn on the mark. But now it's just a bar anywhere between there and there, with the 2 delimiting bars showing how far they go. Okay? Obviously the ones on the side are just drawn on the side. When you come to this bit, there's a wee bit of a question over where the bars go. Now there's some bars down here. I think there's 6 of them, is there?
6, yes.
Yeah.
At the
Evenly spaced.
Evenly spaced.
Evenly spaced, yeah.
I think you got the wrong side. Should be
I do,
inside, not.
yeah, east side here, true. So down there and around, correct. And is it on the inside?
Yeah, that's on the inside of that.
Sorry,
Put in the cover.
I changed the assignments around that much. Okay, so it's
There's
like
another
that.
one at the top there, but-
And then there is only the one up the top in
Yeah.
here. Okay, now that, I don't know what that distance is. I think it turns out to be
Quite
fairly close to the same gap. But these are the ones that are evenly spaced. All right? first one here starts there and goes along, and this one here starts at that tangent and goes along.
Yeah, you got your top mat and your bottom mat are offset from each other.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but I think we'll check it out. But I think
These-
that inside.
My sketch shows it like that, but like I said when we were talking about reinforcing, you push it, grandmother's quilt, right to the edge.
Yeah.
Right to the edge here. Okay. Now, if you think about the example that we did, I think it's sort of like across, remember the reinforcing wall?
Oh, yeah.
So any bars that were sort of like this, to work out how many, it's just the length minus cover minus cover. That's it. You don't go to the center of the bar, minus cover minus cover. So it's the same with this. This goes off into the distance. These bars here go all the way along. How do you work out how many? The length minus cover divided by the spacings. There's two other things that you need, and I'm not going to actually tell you the answer, but I'll just remind you of. If there's a bar that's lapping with another bar, and they're different sizes, spaces,
Take the back one.
you have to end up with you've got to change it to one, either the bigger space or the lower space. I'm not going to tell you which one. If the bars are overlapping, for example, in that direction, sorry, if there's two bars overlapping that are different sizes, you either you do the little lap or the big lap. All right. Yeah. If you think about it, if you think of Lucia, just pause for a second. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. But if you think of Lucia, say getting you under designing something, she'll be upset. She would rather you over design something. All right. So if you think like that, that's how the reinforcing works. Remember, we're doing a job of a technician here, not a registered engineer. So you tend to bump it up more than you do to start taking it away from their calculation. Okay? No, nobody ever penalised somebody for slightly over design, but you certainly the penalty for under design can be catastrophic. Yeah. So I worked for a company that was, it used to be, I think it's still around, called Dar Al Handasa, which was, we did a lot of work in Saudi Arabia, and because they had a lot of money and they were paying the British engineers because they respected them as being the best ever, we were over designing all the time. And then if it hadn't have been for an Egyptian engineer coming in and saying, hey, they're ripping you off, we would have got away with our calculations for a long time. But he made us trim them back to what they should have been. So it was an interesting. So the answer to your question, you've got to also do your reinforcing schedule, which you should have done over the holidays. Steel schedule, also could have done over the holidays. Timber, so steel, reinforcing schedule. Timber. Timber's actually going to be quite a big one. Steel will be a small one. He's only got 4 steel members. Timber's quite big because they've got a big truss there. And then of course some notes. Once again, about 7. But it should be easy on this one because you can use your concrete notes and your steel notes and your timber notes. So you've got notes coming out your ears here. So to find 7 is not too difficult. Have we done timber yet? I'm not sure. I'll go and have a look. But if we do that today, you're going to add some more notes that you can put in your drawings. Drawing 1, drawing 2. Drawing 3 is going to be your this here. So you haven't wasted your time drawing that. So copy that to the side or have it in a position ready to go. Obviously your truss on top. And your columns and plates and everything else. Now that view there, to be honest, is fairly easy. It is almost a copy of what I've done today. In timber, you'll sort of realise that there's a few other notes that I haven't put on there that you'll need to. The steel is pretty much the same. Don't do the squiggly notes, that's really bad CAD. Just think Ingrid, what would she beat me up for? And she would beat you up for that. There's nothing I've penalised students for that she wouldn't do at level 1 in terms of the CAD side of it, okay? If you're not sure, go back, have a look at your notes from that to see where you can gain. Another thing is, generally on structural drawings, if you remember your retaining wall last semester or the semester before, the notes were lined up as best as possible in one box. That's what I'm looking for you doing on these. And the one that's the hardest would be this one, and that's where you are going to have something like this by memory, and then you've got the trusses looking the other way.
This is the elevation view.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would say of all of that, that is the trickiest. Now today we're going to be doing 3D, so don't walk out early if it ends up being going on a wee bit. Hopefully my friend at the front there will be zooming in. I bought this shirt along so you zoom in on the shirt, okay?
Sorry, I should include your shirt.
It's very important today because all the students will be looking at this all the time. So I'm making a statement, you know, I could have said something rude on here or whatever, but the cool thing is when you've done your 3D, flip it round and you'll see exactly what that looks like. And then you just, that's not an acceptable hand-in, but you can use that to do your drawing. You know, if you're not sure what it's going to look like and you flip your 3D around, right? You can kind of, my 3D is okay, you can kind of sort of work it out, but when you've got it there to play with. So obviously your last drawing will be your 3D one.
I was thinking we got an X and Y on
Roger,
Okay.
what about
the
the
flat.
Dynabolt
the, if we just add a
specifications?
little bit like
Uh,
Z
I'll get to that.
connection to the,
So you've
talking
got
about
your,
the last one
your
or
whole
the first
3D thing going on here.
if we
Now,
add
we will go, I'll cover that today. I won't be drawing all of it, but I will be drawing enough for you to get at least 60 or 70% in the 3D, okay? I'll draw that without the bolts and the nuts. So that's the bit you're gonna have to try and figure out yourself. Now, a few warnings, I'll give you that in a minute. The details, okay, so preferably on one sheet. So this is going to be a situation where you need to put a couple of little flags because you're looking down on the Dynabolts. And over here will be section AA. And up here will be the detail. Over here will be maybe, for example, a detail of where the purlins join on, I think, would be another one. So to do a detail, because it's actually just a blow up of that, this here is looking down. So that is a blow up looking down, but this is just a straight copy of that and blown up. So you'll have your bearer and your your truss and your purlin and everything else in there. That you do a little circle with an arrow with a line over to the bigger circle, and that will be detail. Now details are normally 1, 2, 3, 4. Sections are normally A, B, C, D. All right. On the one sheet. If you separate them, then I'll separate your mark a little bit.
Wonderful. Is there a specific
Yeah.
scale we need to zoom those details to, or no?
Yeah.
Just reasonable?
1 to 5.
Okay.
Okay, so here's your choices. Copy it to the side, scale it up. Then all your text sizes will be fine. You'll need to adjust your dimensions to be a quarter of what they normally would be because you've blown it up by 4. So you have to play with your dimensions. Your arrows and everything should be fine as well if you copy that. The other alternative is to make another viewport in the corner and make the viewport 1 to 5, the trouble is all your text will have to change in height as well. That's not a good option, but that's the option we use in industry though. So if you wanted to have a go at that, that's fine. They're not worth a lot. I think they're worth 1 or 2 marks each. I think 1 mark each. So what I do is I offer an extra half mark if you want to do a third detail. Okay? With the 3D, I don't do the nuts, the bolts, the pipe around the outside. I don't do all those extras, but I do put together a 3D model that you see on the thing. So that'll be up to you. It's a bit of a gay ringtone. Who was that? Anyone? Yeah, just change it a bit. Yeah. It's funny how no one reaches their phones. So by gay, I mean my son's always calling my my ringtone gay, and I said, how could I be gay? You're my son. And he says, no, Dad, there's another meaning. Anyway, hey, on this, warning 1, it's good fun. Okay, CAD generally isn't good fun like every other thing here, but everybody struggles. But this is good fun. But it's only worth 5 marks, so don't get carried away with it. It's not going to give you an A pass in this subject, but it is good fun. And some students will start doing that instead of spotting for the exams, which is really bad. The other thing is that what it looks like in model space doesn't necessarily look like in the viewport, which is super plays with your head. So you have in model space a beautifully rendered on the right angle 3D model. You go into the viewport and it's just lines, and it's not even in the same angle. So there's 2 different things going on. When you go inside the model, you can change the rendering and everything else to be different. When you go inside the viewport, you can change it to be different to in the model. So there's a bit to go on today. I'm going to offer an extra 1 mark for anyone that's able to play with their civil model. So the batter slopes and the ground line and the trees that is all around of the tree. If you can turn that into 3D and put it in the same model, I'll look at possibly up to 1 extra mark. Okay?
How will we fit that in, Roger, if it's a single sheet?
No, I'll be able to see your model space,
Oh, not a
but it will have to take up quite a bit of the viewport as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is no scale to that, so whatever you think looks about right. I do have students that end up with a postage stamp, and I have others that zoom in on one corner. You need to, if you have a look at mine, that's about roughly what it needs to look like. Okay, when you present it.
For the extra 3D objects, do you want that in that drawing as well? Draw some other 3D objects to impress the client.
Yeah, so you're looking at what I'm going to draw today, you're looking at 3 marks out of 5. The other 2 are for bolts, pipeline round, hard fill, and maybe something else a little bit like some sheathing or some roofing. Okay, anything can be extruded in 3D. Quite a clever one is to draw up this profile like this as a P-line and then extrude it, and guess what that looks like? Roofing iron. That's one. Some students just do it like that. That's the other type of roofing iron, the normal tin roof. So the roof is one thing that's quite easy to draw, but I can't do the whole thing for you, but I'll give you 60% anyway. All right. The last warning is it's a 50 meg upload, and it should only be about 1 meg if you draw it yourself. But But when you start bringing in internet stuff, which I allow, it starts going. You imagine if you bring in a nut and a bolt, and there will be quite a few nut and bolts and screws on this job, say 200, and it might only be an innocent looking nut and bolt off the internet with it all drawn intricately, but you copy that 200 times and you're way over your 50 meg, okay? So you're better off just doing a cylinder with a nut head on it and drawing it yourself and then copying it. So if it goes over 50 meg, guess what you got to do?
Compress it.
Yes, but it doesn't compress very well. I guess one option is to put it on the cloud and give me access to your cloud. That would work. But what students have had to do in the past is come all the way in here during the exam week and give me their file on a memory stick. And of course I really love coming all the way in here during exam week when I'm normally having to sleep in. So guess what that equates to? A penalty. So don't do that. Keep an eye on the 50 meg. The alternative, of course, is get to 50 meg and leave out a few nuts and bolts. I don't see it, which is quite possible. Yeah. So, just kicking this over here so this old man can get to it. Right, that's better. Right. So you understand your 5 drawings. You understand what you have to do to do that. It's worth quite a few marks. The whole thing. I think 30 marks.
It's 40 for the diplomas, hey?
40 for diplomas, yeah, they're slightly different because they don't have to do their presentation and their report. By the way, getting some good results. I'm halfway through your design reports already. That's how keen I am. I think the lowest mark is 6 and the highest one is 9 so far. So it carries on like that. Haven't done yours yet, Max.
Out of 10, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
haven't done yours yet.
Why are you laughing?
No, I tend to mark by student ID, full stop. Makes it easier, then you don't have any bias, full stop. So I'll have them to you with a bit of luck before next class. I'll have that marked for you. This last assignment, if you're willing to put the time into it, it's not that. I usually find students do get well over 60%, a lot of the ones that have struggled in civil. So it's worth it if you want to, you know. And when you think about it, a little bit of effort in the next couple of weeks versus, you know, having to sit exams to pass courses. I know what I'd rather be doing. At least your destiny, you've got your own destiny in front of you, you know. Before we finish with all these talking here sort of generally, have you already got together in your groups? Both groups?
Pretty much.
Yep. I'm thinking, is there anyone in the group you haven't made contact, people that you haven't made contact with or have? I'm okay if people drop out, but you've got to cover their, whatever they were going to present.
I reached out to one person, I think Nicole is his name, is he? Yeah? Nicole? No.
Okay.
Yeah, he's contacted me, but not.
From our green group, I heard some 2 of them.
Other than that, everyone in our group's sweet, everyone's communicated very clearly what they're happy to do and stuff, so.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I saw you.
so on that subject, if you present but you don't pass, I unofficially, by the way, because I think officially I'm not necessarily allowed to do it, but unofficially I'm okay with carrying over your mark, because most people combined with their group mark get about 7 or 8 or 9, and it's quite a good mark to carry over, and also you don't have to think about the presentation next year, which just makes life a bit easier.
Let's not think about somebody gonna fail the test and redo it next year. We don't need to think about it.
No, but I'm saying that the people that are there's a few students that are actually, I'm not talking about the 40%ers, I'm talking about the ones that are down about 20%, and they probably won't,
Not quit.
yeah, they say, yeah, well, I'll present, and then they don't.
Mm.
The idea is to encourage them to present, so they have a slightly easier next year, that's all, yeah. I know it doesn't come into your, my son was a straight A at Otago University, and he came up against an accounting lecturer, and at the beginning of the semester she went, okay, everybody stand up, so they all stood up, about 600 in the lecture theatre. Right, sit down those that have done this subject once. There's a few people sat down. Twice, a few more. 3 times, a few more. He said there were people standing that had done it 5 times, and she said, this is the hardest subject for everyone to pass. And she said, because I never repeat the same exam, and I always come up with something completely different every year. So there's no way you can study for my exam, ha ha ha, like evil. And my son just went, because all he's ever done was study past exam papers and got A's. So kind of memory study. And he freaked, he went into the exam and just freaked, walked out. I said, why didn't you stay in there? Oh, I didn't think I could pass it. Oh, never done that, right through school, everything. So he never became an accountant. So yeah, I don't believe in, I think we should offer something to carry through to the next year, make it a bit easier the second time round. Anyway, I've been through all those dramas. I had the same problem with Lucius subject, but we got there in the end. That's why I'm teaching you drawing, not structure.